every theory that you have, someone else has had before you, and at some point, you either adapt or you lose your mind.
Welcome back to Q Dads, and yes, did the writers from just tell all the YouTubers and fans out there to give up guessing on how this all connects together through Kenny? Well, that's not going to happen, so yes, it's me, Ste, and we're going to break down all of the great details of episode 7, including what Fatima killing Tilly means, and whose body did Elgin discover. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe, guys, because we'll be touching on Silo in less than 2 weeks' time. And we've done both a trailer and sneak peek breakdown, so don't forget to head to our channel and check out those as Ben dives deep underground for theories. So this episode ends with Fatima killing Tilly, which I must admit I did not see coming until the very last moment. I was still expecting some kind of scene from Alien with something bursting out of Fatima's stomach, but what does this mean for both Fatima and Tilly? And I also asked myself the question, did Tilly see this coming? Because as we know, Tilly does use tarot, and of course then understands about the past, present and future. So did she somehow foreshadow her own death? But in the last few final moments, she did mention to Fatima that she needs to run. What did she mean by that? Because she did not mean just run from the town because of murdering Tilly. No, it's more of running from what eventually she's either going to turn into or what is growing inside of her and is going to come out. Again, hinting that Tilly knew what was going to happen. This then made me question, as I've heard a few theories around it. Is Tilly the entity or something aiding it? As she always seems to pop up at the right time, I wonder if Fatima killing her was something that needed to happen to form some kind of curse, similar to Boyd's worms. I don't know, Tilly's character has always seemed weird since day one. And of course, how will the town react to this now? I love the thought they are going to vote and Fatima is going to spend the night in the box, which was the very first thing we saw Boyd do in A Way of Power. And because he's losing the town, I think this is the decision he will do. Which then means we're going to see Fatima survive, as they do absolutely nothing because she's one of them, which ticks the box for Boyd, because then he's caught one of them, technically with Fatima. Again though, this all stems back to the earlier theory that breaking Boyd is the thing that needs to happen for the next extinction event to happen. Boyd has been constantly targeted, and it's clear this week that destiny and fate are interwoven in Fromville, so clearly Boyd has some sort of fate or action that he must do. Now, is this for the greater good, or something that ultimately helps the entity? Who knows? Either way, Boyd is about to have to make a crazy decision, maybe once again venturing out into the forest to find answers. So the next main point I want to talk about is Elgin. Elgin's story in this episode was the most gripping out of all the stories, and I was on the edge of my seat because it was so spine-tingling. It just had me engaged throughout. And of course, this spirit that has been following him and takes a photo to show him where to go. Now at first, I did question whether this was the same place where Jade first went and saw the person crushed by the boulder, but then it did look somewhat different and seemed to be a little further out of town. As I remember those early shots of Jade, there were some houses in the background. But then I also questioned, is this underground bunker or cellar something like the Room of Requirement from Harry Potter, where it changes the contents of the room depending on what the needs and the desires are from the user? I have another theory on this though. Is the cupboard in the back made from the wood of a faraway tree? And we've seen countless times things acting weird around here, and a faraway tree has led to this place. It's not crazy to think maybe someone cut one down once. And we think this is all strange because as Elgin opens the door to the wine cellar, which does seem like different contents to that of Jade's cellar, he then opens another door leading to a cupboard, and of course he opens the cupboard and there's nothing in it. And that isn't until he hears some knocking from the spirit, forcing him to reveal the red door behind it. And he's a braver person than I am, because I would not have opened that door, but he does, and in doing so reveals some kind of hideout, which we presume to be a hideout before talismans were ever a thing. But then he uncovers a body, and then the spirit looks at him, and Elgin says is this where it happens? So I want to touch on 2 points here. The first being the context of what Elgin says, because he says where it happens, as in this hasn't happened yet. He did not use past tense. So is this all related back to the dream that Elgin had before coming to Fromville? And of course, we ask the question, what does happen? But not only that we see the body, and who is this body now? Now, Ben wanted to mention that this body looks like it was from the time when Victor first entered the town, due to both the state of decay and the clothing the person is wearing. Whereas, I want to bring back a theory Ben had. And is this body Martin? Ben loves bringing up Martin as the main evil. Yes, Elgin does say this is where it happens, implying that it hasn't happened yet. But was he talking about the change of power to Boyd? Or, as the woman last week did say, she could get them all out. Maybe this is a possible future where they were able to kill Martin. I don't know, but I do wonder if the choice of words here was used on purpose to throw us off. Either way, I think this story between Elgin and the spirit and eventually what's going to happen is just the most interesting to me. Second to that, Jade. Now, speaking of Jade, he didn't have much of an input in this episode, other than him, Tabby and Jim having a bit of a discussion about Tabitha's dream and what it could all mean, and that Jade presumes that it's all fate and there's no avoiding any of this. But as all this was unfolding, it made me think of a theory that stems from one of our previous shows we've covered called Constellation. So in Constellation, there was essentially a parallel universe that coexisted at the same time, with each universe having something slightly different to it and would sometimes cross over. So what if one universe, Tabby as a girl, did go to town and experience all of this, which is why our Tabby doesn't have any recollection of it other than a dream. And we could even suggest that the boy in white is Thomas from a different universe who died in this town. And if we take the concept a little bit further, to say that this town is the bridge between those two universes, that would also explain why things like the motel sign with no motel. A stretch too far, or a potential theory? Let us know your thoughts. But more importantly, it does help the theory around why Miranda and Tabby had these visions beforehand. And originally, this script did say no one else, but we must remember one other person had visions prior to being here, and that is Elgin. Now, I've often speculated that Jade is the counter to Tabby, one for good, one for evil. But what if it was actually Elgin all along? I mean, he had visions of From before he got here, and he's being helped by a spirit. If that's not the counter to the boy in white, I don't know what is. Let me know your thoughts on that. There's a few other things that happen in the episode, like Julie and Randall going to the ruins that Boyd did, which I presume we will revisit at some point, with maybe all of them going there. Is this the key to escaping? By going deeper into it? You know, when you play a game, you don't complete the game by staying on level 1. You have to go through all the stages to get to the end. Is that what Randall and Julie need to do? You also had Victor, who was having a little bit of trouble getting anything from Jasper, which I'm actually a little bit disappointed about, because there's been such a build-up to Jasper's character, and then in this episode we barely see him, and we just see Victor getting a bit furious. And honestly, if they hadn't had that intriguing story of Elgin, this probably would have been one of the least enjoyable episodes of the season, which is strange, because we're coming up to the final few episodes, so you should start to build things up a little bit, but the pace just is slowing down even further. And the last 2 points I'll mention. One is we quite enjoyed when the music started playing with the cop, telling her that someday it's going to get better, but obviously for now we're going to have to keep suffering it. I thought this was another great bit of brilliance, teasing both the cop and us, the viewer. And also the fact there is an inside person to all of this, because I don't know, when you have that in the back of your mind, all the conversations that I see with Donna in particular don't sit right with me, and I feel like she's up to something, or she knows more than she's letting on. Anyway guys, let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think Fatima is going to end up in the box? And is that how we're going to end up potentially catching a monster? And whose body did Elgin uncover? And what's going to happen? Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe and leave a comment. And as always, we'll catch you next time with something new.